Richard M. Wilson. He came with this school from the old wooden school that was next door. That was the first principal. He stayed here about 2 years, and then Mr. Williams came. So my brother Seawood got a whole history. He can tell you everything from the old school up until the new. And as he's giving you the history, I'm going to pass out some forms, some pictures. Some of them are from the old Chavis, the wooden Chavis, and the beginning of the new Chavis. He also has, I don't know if any of you all have seen this, we had one class annual book at the Chavis School. And that was 1955, which was the first class in this school. And I have some pictures I'm going to distribute, and you're welcome to pass them around and look at them. So he's going to now begin with the history.
Funded by tax money for African American students. They pretty well named them all Chavis Elementary and High School, Adderley Park Elementary and High School, Lakely Elementary and High School, Gage Elementary and High School. They met to hire one principal only, who was the principal 1 through 12. And that's what they did. Right, it wasn't until 1967 when it was announced that the federal court said you must integrate 59. The State Department then stepped forward and say no schools receive accreditation if one principal is the principal of 1 through 12. You've got to break it down at least a 6 plan. 1 through 6 elementary, 7 through 12 high school. And you must have a principal, 2 principals, not 1. And so elementary principal became popular in Williamsburg County. Started official principal, elementary principal, around 1967. But anyway, we know that African Americans didn't always have a public school. We started off, I'm saying they, because I wasn't necessarily, I was born in 1941. Prior to that time, African Americans were educated out of the church. The church sponsored a school, usually out of the sanctuary. And if they had enough money and a building was available, then they occupied that building. They called it Chavis Church School, or Greentown. Hopewell is known as Greentown School, or what the other Jeremiah School. Jeremiah had a nice building in the city. I think it's still beside the church there. But anyway, NAACP started pressing the government to do better because African American folk were complaining. We're paying tax like everybody else, and our taxes are being used. And the national folk have made it compulsory that children attend school. So the states and the counties started building brick schools, but they built those brick schools for their Caucasian children, and they did not build them for their African American children. And they built them off tax money, but if the African American parents were buying mules and horses, because the farming was done not with tractors back in the 20s, but with mules and horses and cows, all groceries, clothes. Your tax money was being used, but it wasn't being spent on your children. So the NAACP started following suit, left and right, to get it done. And federal officials started responding, but it responded slowly. But the NAACP and Thurgood Marshall kept pressing. So around 1940, they realized that we got to do something. Because these courts, like get from the local courts to the state Supreme Court and on up to the federal court. So we want to be a step ahead. 1941, World War II, Pearl Harbor was invaded, and it ended around 45. As the war was ending, then building became available. Building, which was practically free. The Army started giving out these buildings to the states because they were going to destroy them. They looked really barracks. So Williamsburg County got it on that deal. They got some of them. Now, Williamsburg County could provide a public school for the African American children. You got to buy some land, put these buildings on, and then you can invite the community to come to this public school and be educated at tax expenses and not from the church collection plate. The church will do it. Your collection plate paid those teachers. And if you had a principal, the collection plate paid the light bill and all that. The church, the people of the church were glad to switch and put their money in the church collection to work for the church. Of course, they were supporting Alumni University and the college there and Morris College there and something. But before their children could get to Allen University or Morris, they had to first get high school diploma to be accepted at Allen or Morris. You got to do first thing first. And the state wasn't doing nothing for that. But anyway, 1940, they got started. And by the end of the war, 1944, Williamsburg County came and bought a piece of land. They had not had building they could use. They didn't have to build a brick building. They had already built a brick building for Hemingway High School downtown. They had already built a brick building for Indiantown High School in Indiantown and Elwood, King Street and Elwood, Williamsburg. So they saw a way to get some buildings from the military situation. All they had to do was buy some land and put the buildings on. They came, sure they did Tomlinson first in King Street. And then they started for the whole county. Circling around by Bethlehem, one around by Big D's, cover this section of Williamsburg County. They found the land here besides Chavis Church. I imagine they were looking for a cheaper piece of land. They could have bought a piece of land in the city of Hemingway, but they didn't. They found the price they could handle here beside Chavis Church. Now, Chavis Church was here long before Chavis School. You know that. So when you start looking at the history of Chavis School and where it got started and where it got the name and all of that, if you think about that, I was born July 4th, 1941. My history didn't start until July 4th, 1941. Your history didn't start until your birthday. You didn't have no history before you were born, did you? So Chavis School didn't have history before 1944. There was no Chavis public school. I've asked my old sisters, brothers, I have a sister named Little Donna. She was born 1932. So she was 6 years old, 1938. So I've asked her, when you started school, you started school at 6 years old? She said, yes. Where did you start? Did you start at Chavis? She said, no, there was no Chavis school in 1938. I had to start at what we call Briary, at the Jerusalem Church School. Asked my next sister, you were born in 1934. You were 6 years old. When did you start in 1940? I started at the church school. Asked my third older sister, you were born in 1936. You were 6 years old around 1942. Where did you start school? I started school at the church school, but by my second year, I was transferred into the public school named Chavis Public School, 1944. Principal Frank Wilson, Richard Wilson. Anytime the state set up something, the state and county, there are guidelines that the church school didn't have. You got to be a part of the state education, with South Carolina Education Department. You got to meet some guidelines. You get 16 units to graduate with a diploma. And with that diploma, then you can apply for college. They go forth enough money. They bought the land, before the enough money to build, to put the buildings on the land, named it Chavis Public School, and invited all the church schools to come send your children here to Chavis Public School, and they did. They were glad to stop paying out of their church budget. It didn't provide for the 12th grade. They made it up to the 11th grade. Now you need 16 units to get a high school diploma, so if your school doesn't go into high 11th grade, you're not going to get a diploma from that school. You can get a certificate that says you completed 11th grade, and you now have 12 units to your credit. So either a college can take you and give you the last 4 units, or a city that has 12th grade, you have the right to go there and get those last 4 units. But and since your county does not have that for you, you don't have to pay tuition, but you got to pay room and board. So we went to bring them. They then decided, let's get somebody to buy a bus so they can transport. And over in the Muddy Creek area, Buffalo, bought a used bus, and the churches over there, during that time, Jerusalem, Bethlehem, and Nazareth, but certain churches. So those parents talk to each other all the time. They arranged to buy that bus, we'll have to support it. You think about children, and he did that. That one bus took around from Bethlehem to Jerusalem to Hopewell.
Please stand.
To see so many people here today. My name is William Bradley go back to your seat.